Alright everyone, we start off today with a mild suggestion. Since Mitch McConnell is no longer going to be the Senate GOP leader, he's stepping down in November. He's decided that he's going to remain in the Senate, but he's not going to be the Senate leader for the Republican Party. My suggestion is quite simple. Can we please get Rand Paul in there as the Senate majority/minority leader? Probably the majority after the election. I think that would be a good idea. Let me put forth my proposal. Rand Paul, number one, is from the same state as Mitch McConnell. So Kentucky voters really should be pressuring that to be a thing. Because he's outgoing and Rand Paul is not, it would make sense to pass the torch to somebody from your own state, right? Kentucky voters should love the premise because you continue to have the Senate majority and or minority leader from your state. So for you, extra important. If you're in Kentucky, right into Rand Paul's office, right into Mitch McConnell's office and say, look, this should be a thing. It might be a little bit of political nepotism on the state level, but I don't give a damn. Number two, Rand Paul, by Senate standards, is relatively young. He could hold that position for 3 or 4 terms with ease. As we've seen, most of the Senate is geriatric. Rand Paul is a Gen Xer. I mean, he's not young anymore, but he's not elderly or something like that. So he's got that vigor, he's got the relative youth, and he's also got the stage presence. One thing I've noted about Rand Paul, he's capable of being very procedural and very dry and sort of in with the political thing. He knows how to do that, but he's also a meme lord. You know, he does the Festivus thing every single year and sometimes does random live streams. And there was that one live stream he did years ago and it wasn't working out like technically, like it kept dropping or something. And he's like, at the end, he's like, fuck it. And then he just ends the live stream. He can be unintentionally hilarious too. Person with a good sense of humor. One of the few people in Congress that we can genuinely count on to support liberty. A marginal small L libertarian. You could not do better than to have Rand Paul in there. Now, some of you will say, well, I want Rand Paul as the running mate for Donald Trump. Trust me, I am very sympathetic to your plea. I would love to see Rand Paul be Donald Trump's running mate. It would be a dream ticket. I would be on my deathbed and I would have them carry my fucking half-dead body into the voting booth to vote for them. It would be great. It's a dream come true if that happens, but it won't happen. Rand Paul does not seem to be seriously considered as a running mate option. It's again probably going to be an unassuming male or a charismatic female, and Rand Paul is a charismatic male. He has a large group of people that really like him. He's very well spoken, and he has quite a stage presence. He's not the sort of person that you would think of as being a likely running mate for Donald Trump. He's also probably not willing to take the position. He likes the fact that he's in that senior role within the Senate. So get him in as the leader of the GOP in the Senate. And by the way, we can clean house too. Imagine this. We go forth into the 24 election. Mitch McConnell, of course, is no longer Senate leader. Imagine Trump gets reelected. Rand Paul, by the way, the first person to drop out in 2016 and endorse him that had any pull at all. He gets in as Senate leader, and then you get a new House leader who is MAGA as well. Maybe it's a Gates or a Boebert or somebody like that. Would that not be helpful going forward to promoting populism in the United States and sort of washing away the dross that is neoconservatism? I think that would be very helpful. And Rand Paul has been very effective. Look at the NSA spying scandal. This is under Obama. What did Rand Paul do? He organized a filibuster to stop the NSA spying from being renewed. If it wasn't for Ted Cruz cucking at the last moment, Rand Paul would have held the line. And he did, and he was frustrated by that. He was pissed at Ted Cruz. You could see it in his face. He's a man of principle. There are very few men of principle in Congress. It's very difficult to get into the halls of D.C. at any level, goddamn, even if you're a fucking janitor, if you have any real, honest principles. Rand Paul is one of the few politicians, I think, in U.S. politics, in modern history, that actually genuinely believes in trying to do what's right. He's not always successful, he's not always on cue, but he does a good job. I think he should be the one running the Senate Republicans. And with him at the helm, instead of Mitch McConnell or some other neocon bitch, I think that you would win a lot more races than you are right now. For instance, I don't think that Rand Paul would have wasted $10 million in a GOP versus GOP race in Alaska like Mitch McConnell did. Throwing the money to Lisa Murkowski because that Chewbacca there, bad news. That was a little bit of a strategic mistake now, wasn't it? A little bit too on the nose. I think that it was on purpose. Mitch McConnell threw that race deliberately, and in the process screwed Herschel Walker, possibly Mehmet Oz, although with Fetterman it's like, yeah, well, at least he's entertaining, and Mehmet Oz wasn't necessarily the greatest candidate. Blake Masters, other people like that, you could have gotten them all in. In the end, the Senate candidates that were MAGA, most of them failed, not because they were weak candidates, which is the going line, but because they were denied support by the party itself, by the RNC number 1, and by Mitch McConnell as Senate leader number 2. Rand Paul, I don't think, would make that mistake. He is a small R Republican in the sense that he does not always ideologically align with the main line of his party, and that's important. That negotiation, that ability to actually defy the neocon line is exactly why you would want him in such a position. So if Rand Paul cannot be Donald Trump's running mate, I want him to lead the Senate Republicans. By the way, while I will never register as a Republican, if the GOP does choose him, or somebody comparable to him, I will accept no substitutions. I want fucking Rand Paul. I don't want somebody similar to him. I want him, the man himself. Ron Paul's son? Yeah, I don't think you're going to do better than that. If they do choose him, and he does become the leader of the GOP in the Senate, that will really redeem the party in my eyes. And considering the fact that he's relatively young and obviously fairly fit, again, you could be looking at a dynastic sort of situation where the GOP is improved for decades to come. Well, it won't be just be a morning in America again. The GOP will finally see the light of dawn. Well, it hasn't for a long time. Rand Paul for GOP Senate leader or bust. I supported him for his presidential run in 2016 until he dropped out and endorsed Trump, and that was the flipping point for me, at which point I said, okay, if Rand Paul thinks that the dude will do a good job, that's enough for me, because I trust his judgment. I genuinely believe that he actually cares. I can't say that about the average politician. That is a very, very large step for somebody like me who is government skeptic in general. I'm a classical liberal, of course. I'm more libertarian than Rand Paul on most of the issues. But I would trust him in that role to at least try to do what's right. You can't do any better than that. There's nobody else in the Senate GOP that would do a better job than Rand Paul. You'll be crazy if you put somebody else forth. And Mitch McConnell, again, as a fellow Kentuckian, should be openly endorsing him and saying, well, I'm standing down. We got another man from Kentucky that I think will do a good job. For what little the endorsement would be worth, it should still be made anyway. So yes, Rand Paul 2024, not for running mate, though, for leader of the Senate. Probably the majority, by the way, incoming in 2024, based on the races and the fact that the GOP only has to defend one race for every 2 that the Dems have to defend. That's about all. Peace out.